Thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lim Nakrin. We continue to follow the aftermath of the Apalachee High School shooting. I want to show you some footage from inside the courtroom a little bit earlier today where the suspected shooter and his father faced a judge. And also breaking within just the last few moments, the district attorney now saying that the high school shooter will face more charges and his father could potentially also face more charges. Just a short time ago, we heard from Barrow County District Attorney Brad Smith saying that the charges currently against 14-year-old Colt Gray, who appeared in court this morning, do not address those injured. Remember now that 14-year-old Colt Gray is charged in the killing of 4 people at Apalachee High School. And also groundbreaking, his father now charged as well. So the 14-year-old Colt Gray, the younger Gray, charged with 4 counts of felony murder in that massacre at Apalachee High School. His father, going back to that footage inside the courtroom today, his father was arrested last night, 54-year-old Colin Gray, and is now facing a slew of charges as well. Colin Gray now facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, as well as 8 counts of cruelty to children. And the district attorney explaining just a short time ago that the 2 counts of second-degree murder relate to the deaths of children. That essentially underlying cruelty to children is part of the legality of a second-degree murder charge, and 2 of the victims were children. 2 of the victims killed, I should say. There are surviving victims as well. So this is also precedent-setting. The fact that Colin Gray, the father, has been charged because, and this you're looking at footage of the younger Gray, 14-year-old Colt Gray, and his father is a 54-year-old Colin Gray, shown in a separate shot. This is the attorney with 14-year-old Colt Gray, and you know, this is only the 2nd time in U.S. history and the 1st time in Georgia history that a parent has been charged in a school shooting performed by his or her child. The first time was in Michigan, and earlier this year, for the very first time, parents were convicted in the school shooting conducted by their child, which was Ethan Crumbley, and that was in Michigan earlier this year. And they were actually, those parents were actually sentenced to a minimum of 10 years in prison. And here, in this case, you have Colin Gray, and this is the first time in Georgia history that a father, a parent, has been charged for such a crime. So the district attorney also said it's possible that Colin Gray could face additional charges. That's something that we're going to be watching for. You can see, obviously, he is affected. He is emotional, as he was in court today for his initial appearance. And, yeah, so much to absorb in the community as well. The community still very much in mourning. And we're also hearing a lot of stories of survival and bravery that we want to shine a light on as well. And one of the students who was wounded in the shooting says that he actually came face to face with the suspect. And he spoke with Atlanta News First Don Shipman, who is at Jug Tavern Park, where a memorial on the stage steps is growing.
Size, and we've been watching as more people have showed up this morning. Take a look right there. You can see some of the folks dropping off some flowers, and there's more balloons there. The flags are at half staff, and what a juxtaposition too, because outside, yes, there's this memorial, but inside the school, authorities are still processing the crime scene.
Hit me right here, here, and here.
Student Ronaldo Vega was hit several times by bullet fragments in that school, suffering injuries to his left shoulder and left leg. The 14-year-old freshman says that he was in the first classroom that the shooter targeted. He came face to face with that shooter and witnessed him open fire on him and his classmates, he says. Now, after being shot, he dropped to the ground for cover. Then an act of bravery that likely saved lives that day.
I went to go close the door because I didn't want nothing more to happen. Because if it did happen, then I wouldn't be here right now. Pray for your kids that go to school, because you never know what will happen.
And this is what we've been noticing this morning. A lot of people just coming up to that memorial, placing those flowers, and then standing for just a few moments to kind of watch on and pay their respects. More people can do just that here, but they can also attend a vigil happening tonight from 6 to 9 at Jug Tavern Park, just about 15 minutes from here. You can stop by, open to the public. Grief counselors will also be made available. We're here outside Apalachee High School. Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.
And taking a look at the victims, remembering them, 14-year-old Christian Angulo and 14-year-old Mason Schermerhorn, along with teachers, Christina Arimi and Richard Aspinwall at Apalachee High School. Lawmakers are holding a gun control news conference at the state capitol on the heels of this tragedy. Atlanta News First reporter Josh Skinner has more from the Capitol.
Yep, Democrats will be holding a news conference right here at 10:30 this morning in which gun violence after another mass shooting will be the central focus. Now, this comes on the heels of a bipartisan study committee that met yesterday at the state capitol called the State Senate Safe Firearm Storage Study Committee. It was actually a previously scheduled meeting before Wednesday's events. Bipartisan gun safety legislation, whether safety locks or gun safe requirements, has been introduced in the state legislature each of the past two sessions, but has failed to pass. Yesterday's meeting got very emotional, with parents pleading for change.
We have more children dying from gun violence than we do car wrecks. But think of all the safety measures we have in cars. My children have been in car seats. They have airbags and shields. But my kids could die going to school, where they should feel safe.
And that study committee will meet again on September 19th. But again, this morning, Democrats holding a news conference about gun safety here at the state capitol at 10:30 a.m. Atlanta News First will be there. Reporting outside the state capitol, Joshua Skinner, Atlanta News First.
And the accused Apalachee High School shooter used an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle, according to police. But the school resource officers had to face that threat armed only with handguns. Atlanta News First Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe has more.
Atlanta Public Schools Police added rifle training for select resource officers immediately after our interview with the police chief 1 year ago. But the rifles are stored in patrol cars, not inside schools.
If there's a shooter right in front of you, you're not going to have time to go get it. If there's a shooter and you can get to the shooter quicker versus going to get that rifle, if it's going to save time for me to go and address the shooter, I'm going to do that first. So I'm still just a lot of questions about that.
The Apalachee High School shooter used an AR-15. The school resource officers didn't have access to rifles of their own, according to training records reviewed by Atlanta News First Investigates. Tanner Good was rifle qualified when he was with the Winder Police Department, but he gave up his rifle when joining the Barrow County Sheriff's Office in 2023. His rifle qualification lapsed on September 6th of last year.
Several officers who've come from other departments to the school police have patrol rifle training in their past, but don't currently have the qualification.
It is time to consider using whatever methods we need to stop the threat.
Chief Raynard Walker made the decision to add rifle training for the Clayton County Schools Police after our interview at the beginning of last school year.
If one of your officers had to engage a shooter who had a rifle with only a pistol, they'd be outgunned right out of the gate, wouldn't they?
They would definitely be outgunned.
We don't yet know if the school shooter at Apalachee High School was still armed when confronted by police. But what we do know is those school resource officers were armed with handguns, and Colt Gray surrendered as soon as he was confronted by them. I'm Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe, Atlanta News First investigates.
And you know, the mass shooting at Apalachee High School thrusting new technology into the spotlight. It's a panic button on faculty ID badges called Centegix. When clicked, it alerts medical or law enforcement officials, and in some cases starts a hard lockdown. Atlanta News First investigative reporter Sierra Cummings tells us this technology now being credited for saving lives.
Actually saw the lockdown initiate before I even heard gunshots. So I had time to prepare. Someone saw the threat even before he started to engage. So it's almost we knew before anything truly even happened, before lives were taken. So it's insane, the technology that we have access to.
As a suspected shooter walked around Apalachee High Wednesday morning, 2 school resource officers were quickly alerted to the threat. The 14-year-old student is accused of killing 4 and shooting 9 others. But it's a toll Apalachee teacher Stephen Cryamble says could have been even higher if not for this button.
Without a doubt in my mind, I think this program that Apalachee instilled upon us at 100% saved lives without a doubt in my mind. I recommend it to any school district.
It's been a tool previously recommended to public schools across Georgia. Atlanta News First Investigates found these 9 metro districts, from Gwinnett schools to Fayette County schools, have contracts with the Atlanta-based company behind the badge, Centegix.
The power of the badge is to wear it.
Last year, Fulton County became one of the latest to train its teachers on the wearable badge that doubles as a panic button.
3 times.
A 3-time push might be used for a medical emergency, but if the staff member continues pushing the button 8 times, it signals a school lockdown for worst-case scenario, like a mass shooting. GPS data from that button signals to school police and other law enforcement exactly where the physical threat is located, right down to the hallway. It's what happened at Apalachee High. School resource officers knew exactly where to go. Fulton County Superintendent Dr. Mike Looney crediting the tech for their improved district campuses.
We've adapted a long-term strategy to making sure that our buildings are as safe as they possibly can be.
It's worth noting, in the 2023 Georgia legislative session, lawmakers introduced Alyssa's Law, named after one of the victims in the Parkland, Florida shooting. The proposal would have required some type of panic button in all public Georgia schools. Despite that bill stalling, many school districts implemented these systems all on their own. In the studio, I'm Sierra Cummings. Atlanta News First investigates.
And of course, we continue to follow all the latest developments on this story on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. If you haven't done so yet, please download our free app to get updates sent right to your phone.